Hello, and welcome back to Shaking for Restoration. It's your girl, Lady Fanta, and I want to take the moment to thank you all who have already followed my blog, for all the feedback that I've gotten, the testimonies that something I shared helped somebody else. I am ever so grateful, and I ask that you continue to follow me on this journey, as this week I share about healing and the process of healing.
Have these visions in my mind of a gift that's still inside. Can't believe my eyes. The moment has arrived.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy, Pastor J. Listen, this Monday, June 8th, my brand new single, Hold On, featuring the legendary Monique Walker and my niece Brooklyn. It's going to be available for pre-order. Listen, this is a message for the nation. It's a message of healing, and I'm telling you, a message of hope. Get it from all digital platforms this Monday. Black Lives Matter.
I'm going into the place I find healing, a place of refreshing, where there is cleansing. I'm going into the water, a ripple of love, a current of peace, a flowing of joy. It's all in the deep. It's in the living water.
What's up, everybody? What's going on? It's your boy, Dwayne Lode Holt, D-Lo, whatever you want to call me, and we're here. It's the River of Living Water, and we are back, and we're excited to bring you some stuff that you haven't seen in a while. We've been doing this a long time, and now we're back here doing some things. I myself, with my co-host, my partner, Pastor Jamel Lewis. We're going to bring him in just a second, but let's get the housekeeping out of the way. First of all, we missed you. And we're back and excited. There's a lot going on in the world, and we felt it was necessary to bring back the River of Living Water in order to speak to today's current events and issues and different things that are happening. So, little housekeeping. Want to put a disclaimer on it real quick. First of all, this is not a church show. Let's just make this abundantly clear to you. I need you to understand, if you're looking for a bunch of prophetic words and things of that nature, well, that may happen, but it's not the crux of what we're trying to do today. We're looking to bring you current events, issues, and things from our perspective, from the perspective of those who understand what ecclesia really is. And that's not just being in a church building, but the called out ones. And listen, if you're watching this show, we hope that you're one of the called out ones who will help join us in this journey to make things happen. So with that being said, let me get it out of the way. Let's go right into it. Let's bring in my brother, Pastor Jamel Lewis. What up, Jay?
What's going on, everybody?
Pastor Jamel, what's going on? How you been, brother? It's been, what, 5 years since we did this?
Man, I'm good. Yeah, about 5 years. Yeah, definitely. I'm good, man. I'm just trying to navigate through these crazy times that we're in right now, and trying to make sure that, you know, I leave an impact.
That's got to be
it, man.
That's definitely the focus and definitely what we want to do. We're glad you can join us here each and every Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Each and every Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Join us here live. It's the River of Living Water. Do me a favor. At the bottom of your screen, you can see it says like, share, comment. Do me a favor. Like this post, share this post, send it out. Go ahead. Let's get people involved. Let's allow them to see what's going on with us. Let them see what's happening on this show. Share it out. Go do that right now. 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 Go ahead and share it out for us. Share it. You're going to hear some stuff that you might not have heard anyplace else. So let's get ready. We've got one of the originators. He was joking that, you know, he doesn't usually do stuff like this, but we're glad to have him with us as always. And he's not really a stranger to the River of Living Water, but this is our brother, our friend, and we can't get him to do this no other time. He only goes live with us. So welcome to us. I call him a love advocate because that's what he is. My brother, Derek Higgs. What up, D?
What's up, brothers? What's up? It's a pleasure to be here, man. Always a pleasure to be with my brothers.
Always
man.
An honor to have you, bro. We're excited to have you. We're glad that you're here. We want you to like, share, comment all of you share it out. We want you to share and comment as well. We want you to comment on this. Let us know that you're here, where you're in from. You know, again, let everyone know this will be where we are on every Wednesday at 10 p.m. So let's just get right to it. I want to delve into something. As you know, we're in a very different world than we've lived in ever. You know, things have changed with the advent of COVID-19, and then most importantly, for those of us who are here dealing with the piece that goes to police brutality, and especially for those of us who are here who call New York City our home. The president of the New York State Department or the New York State Association of Police Benevolent Associations, Mike O'Meara, had some very interesting things to say on yesterday. Understand he is not the NYPD's PBA president. Just give you a quick overview so you have an understanding. The PBA president of New York of the NYPD is a gentleman by the name of Patrick Lynch. What Mr. O'Meara is for all of the municipalities that have police departments, Mr. O'Meara is the president of the group that brings all of the PBAs together. His office is in Albany, so some people were erroneously calling him the NYPD president. He is not. He is the president of all New York. So that includes the people in Buffalo, the things that happen there. Some of us who are downstate here who have had issues and dealings with Nassau and Suffolk County Police. This is the PBA president that covers all of the municipalities of New York. He has some interesting things to say yesterday. Let's take a listen.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike O'Meara. I'm the president of the New York State Association of PBAs. And I just want to talk to you, the press, and I want to talk to the police officers. 375 million interactions with the public every year. 375 million interactions. Overwhelmingly positive responses. Overwhelmingly positive responses. But I read in the papers all week, we all read in the papers, that in the black community, mothers are worried about their children getting home from school without being killed by a cop. What world are we living in? That doesn't happen. It does not happen. I am not Derek Chauvin. They are not him. He killed someone. We didn't. We are restrained. And you know what? I'm saying this to all the cops here. Because you know what? Everybody's trying to shame us. The legislators, the press, everybody's trying to shame us into being embarrassed about our profession. Well, you know what? This isn't stained by someone in Minneapolis. It's still got a shine on it. And so do theirs. So do theirs. Stop treating us like animals and bugs, and start treating us with some respect. That's what we're here today to say. We've been left out of the conversation. We've been vilified. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. Trying to make us embarrassed of our profession. 375 million interactions. Overwhelmingly positive. Nobody talks about all the police officers that were killed in the last week in the United States of America, and there were a number of them. We don't condone Minneapolis. We roundly reject what he did as disgusting. It's disgusting. It's not what we do. It's not what police officers do. Our legislators abandoned us. The press is vilifying us. Well, you know what, guys? I'm proud to be a cop. And I'm going to continue to be proud to be a cop until the day I retire. And that's all I have to say.
Okay. So I got a lot of thoughts about that. But Jamel, why don't you tell me what you think about when you see that?
I think that he's living in a whole reality that is probably on Mars or Pluto, because how quickly he forgets Eric Garner. How quickly it's forgotten about Todd Gurley. How quickly we forget Just last week, one of your cops was driving a car, opened up the door, and hit somebody with the police car. Another cop was caught in the Bronx, bashing a man in his face with his fists. I mean, there's just so many different times you can pull up just within the past week of how crazy NYPD was going. Pushed that girl who was about 98 pounds, pushed her and cracked her head on the floor. That was NYPD. That was a big bruising NYPD man pushing a girl who wasn't even in his face or in his space. How quickly he forgets. And so I just realized that until police are really honest about the conversation, until they're really honest, then they shouldn't be invited to the table to talk or to negotiate, because you're not even being honest with what just went down. We're not talking about something that happened 3 years ago. Last week. So I can't honor anything that he was saying. 375 million interactions. You come on, man. We ain't that stupid. We see it on video. We see it with our own eyes. So now you're trying to tell us not to believe what we see with our own eyes. I can't go for it. My mother didn't raise a fool.
Definitely not. Derek?
I don't even know what else to say. The moment I heard the video again, all I kept saying in my head was "damn fool." He sounds like a damn fool. And I say that in all humility. Like Jamel said, I don't think he's ever heard of YouTube. YouTube have a plethora of NYPD videos, not just the police departments across the nation. NYPD alone has enough police brutality videos. Do we ignore them? Do we pretend like they didn't happen? Do we pretend like they didn't exist? And what about the people whose names we've never heard? That's the thing that always trips me out. There's people whose names we've never heard. Police have been killing our people for years, decades even. We have to keep in mind that police unions didn't even allow blacks into the police department until just a few decades ago. You feel me? So I just don't know the reality, like Jamel said, that this gentleman is living in. And I say this often here in the house. I'm up there in age or whatever, like the three of us are. When I leave out the house to go to the store, I take off my do-rag and I have locks. I take off my do-rag. I take off my hoodie. I do certain things not to. It's sad that I have to do those things to desensitize an issue before an issue even occurs, you know? And this is an everyday reality. And I don't know what that guy or what reality that guy is living in.
It's crazy to me because he mentions these millions of interactions, but all it takes is one poor interaction to spoil an entire idea.
Yeah.
And the tone deaf nature of that of what he said bothers me the most, because there was no contriteness, there was no apologizing. I get
he sounds mad. He sounds angry.
And as the leader of a union, I get the idea that your constituency are there, the people who voted for you, they elected you to speak for them and to represent them. And so you have to represent them in a certain way. I get it. But where is your humanity? Are you so enthralled in trying to protect the blue? And see, and that's where my problem comes in, because no one ever said that all interactions were bad. No one ever said that all police were bad. But while you just decried and denounced what happened in Minnesota, why are you not decrying what's happening right in your own cities, right in your own states? You can say whatever you want about what happened with Derek Chauvin in Minnesota, but what about the police interaction that happened in Buffalo? Since, like I said, he is the state representative as president of the PBAs. So that means those police officers in Buffalo that pushed down that 78-year-old man, they're under your charge as well. Those police officers that pushed down that young woman who was just protesting downtown that gave her that concussion, they're under your purvey as well. Where is your apology for that? You are completely tone deaf, and it makes absolutely no sense at all. Our good sister Anika Robinson, well, she's not Robinson no more. She married. I can't even think about what her last name is now. She's of Mr. O'Meara. She says he feels abandoned, mistreated, villainized by the world after only 3 weeks, and he can't take it. Try being black. What do you say to that, Derek?
But first I say, can you guys see me?
Yeah, we see you. You good?
I can't see nothing.
We see you.
I just hear you on the screen, but I lost you. And
Okay.
I for a moment was actually trying to get myself back up on the screen. So I really didn't hear. I heard the Anika part.
Okay.
But I honestly didn't hear what you guys were saying. So you might want to shift to Jamel until I figure this out.
Well, I'll because I want you to answer it. I'll repeat what she said, and then you can figure it out when we shoot to Jamel for the next question.
Okay.
It says he feels abandoned. Talking about O'Meara, Anika said he feels abandoned, mistreated, villainized by the world after only 3 weeks, and he can't take it. Try being black. What do you say to that point?
I mean, I don't think there's anything left to say to that point. It's a valid point. I don't think that he feels villainated, though. I think that he just feels like he has to defend the institution. And that sounds like what he was doing, was defending the institution, regardless to the facts about that institution. So he was defending the institution, not feeling villainized by media, or there's no way to feel villainized by media and have watched George Floyd die at the hands of the police. I don't get that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, when you think about it from that standpoint, Jamel, having seen the videos that we've seen, having seen the interactions, some of us even having had interesting interactions with the police. I'll use a story from my own life. Just a few years ago, I was driving down Sutter Avenue here in Brooklyn, and I encountered a police officer. Now, for those, some of you also know, I'm also an NYPD chaplain, and I've done work with the 73rd Precinct. Jamel is an NYPD chaplain with the 75th Precinct. And so in working in those dealings, we deal with cops all the time. We do have IDs, and we have shields that we carry as well that denote us as chaplains. I'm driving down Sutter Avenue, minding my business. Cop pulls me over, in my opinion, for absolutely no reason. I have no idea what he pulled me over till this day, and this happened about 3 years ago. Pulls me over, and in the midst of this interaction, he comes over, and I hand him my license and registration, and while I'm doing it, without him even asking, I go, "What'd you pull me over for?" And he gets hostile with me immediately. So he asked me for my insurance document. I was reaching for my insurance document, and he just happened to look over and see that my shield was protruding from where my insurance document was. And he goes, "What's that?" So I pull out my ID, and I go, "I'm a chaplain with the 73rd Precinct." His response to me was, "Well, why didn't you lead with that? Why do I have to lead with who I am in the community in order to get your respect?" Jamel, what do you say to that?
I think that we're actually looking at a mentality that says, if you're with us, we'll protect you. If you're with us, then we can make a deal to make sure that you're okay. And with us means, oh, you with the 73rd? Oh, my bad. Okay, look, I'm just going to let you go off with a warning. It's like saying the people out here really don't matter, and I'm going to make my quota, and I'm going to get my numbers from them. And if they try to ask me any questions, I'm going to be belligerent, and you're not going to be able to do anything about it. But if you show me a badge, then I'm going to be like, oh, okay, Well, why didn't you lead with like me and you have had the same experiences? I've had cops ask me, well, why didn't you tell me? I shouldn't have to tell you for you to do your job as a police officer, for you to follow the rules of the training. If I ask you what I was pulled over for, that's not a courtesy. That's a law. You're supposed to tell me what I was pulled over for.
By law.
Like, you're just doing your job. Why can't you do your job correctly without knowing who I am?
Or what I represent, for that matter.
Exactly.
So you almost have to
Like,
be an
you're
acceptable.
here.
Go ahead, Derek.
Go on.
It's almost like you have to be an acceptable nigga or black person. Excuse me, I don't mean
No, that's
but I mean that in the way that they would perceive it. I mean that in the way that they perceive it.
Absolutely.
It's almost like you have to be an acceptable nigga, worthy of their respect or connection, like Jamel said, which is ridiculous.
It is absolutely ridiculous. And the thing that, as I said, that really stuck out about Omir's comments and his tone was that anger, as if questioning or auditing the police department is not the right of the citizens.
Yeah.
Go ahead, dude.
Like there should be no checks and balances.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like we should not hold you accountable. I'm just hoping that and I'm just hoping that during this climate, that people are paying a very close attention to the shift that's happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just the police department; it's institutions being challenged right now.
Yep, absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
major institutions that have held power for a very long time. People are not challenging the police; they're challenging the institution, and that's the thing. And it's not just the police department, as I just said; it's every institution right now is being held accountable to checks and balances, as well as the institutional church.
So, perfect segue. Hearing Omir's comments and dealing with some of the things, I mean, I won't delve deeply into it because there are still some discussions going on, but I know that the institutional churches have been having different rallies and different Black Lives Matter protests and marches. Jamel, what do you feel that these types of things are actually fruitful for now and for where we're going as a country and as a world?
I definitely think they're fruitful. I definitely think that things are happening. These protests have forced the hand of companies and conglomerates and businesses. It's forced the hand of people to either come aboard on the side of right or face swift repercussions.
And it's true because this has become a black or a white issue. Pardon the pun, but it's really become a black or white issue. Case in point, I turned on my PlayStation the other day to play some Madden, and EA Sports. we hate systemic racism at the core. We love our black players, our employees, and we agree that Black Lives Matter. Everyone is coming out. You're either with us or you're against us.
Well, the NFL kind of had to. The NFL kind of had to, in response to the NFL players. So they kind of have to, and I think that I'm cool with the Black Lives Matter hashtag, and I'm cool with companies using that. But for what though?
Wow.
For what? Does it matter because it matter right? Does it matter right? Does Black Lives matter because they matter right now? Or do they matter because they matter?
That's
if that makes sense.
I think that it at this point right now, we understand that we're going to draw people who honestly mean Black Lives Matter. Then we're going to have another crew that comes in because it's good business decision to say Black Lives Matter. And my thing is, hey, wherever you fall right now, let the wheat and tear grow together. In a few, we're going to separate. In a few, we're going to find out who's who. But we're going to do what we have to do right now to progress the move to the next level. Now, as we go to higher levels, these cats are going to start to fall away. That's not really serious about it. So,
no, I just want to piggyback on what he just said, because these, and to what your question was as well. Do these riots, do these rallies, do these protests, do they matter? They definitely matter now, because even in this short period of time and them protesting, a lot has changed. A lot has changed. The B side to that question is, where do we go after the rallies, and what's going to be the message that we hear after the rally, which is what's going to transcend us or change the trajectory of Black culture as we know it, is what we hear after this, because we can't go back to hearing the same things that we were hearing before that sort of kind of got us here in the first place.
Give us an example of some of those things. Let's treat our watchers as if they're 5-year-olds. Let's walk them through it.
But again, and it always goes back to the Black church for me and religion. Not just the Black church, but I speak heavily from the Black church because that's where my pedigree is from. It goes back to the Black church, where we've always gotten our cues and our information. The message of the church has to change to meet the needs of the people where they are today. And the church is still talking about the methods of how you win people to the church. But when they get there, what's the point? When we had to argue with so many of your leaders just to come out the front doors to get involved in the Black Lives Matter movement in the first place. So what's going to be the message of the church now that propels our people to deal with our own hatred, our own self-hatred, the things that we've hated about ourselves and each other, the communal issues we have with one another, the sexual orientation issues we have with one another, because all of that stems from hate, intolerance, prejudice, and we have to deal with the message around the board. So we can't deal with Black Lives Matter and riot and protest and march and then go back to the church and practice the behaviors, patterns, rituals that got us there in the first place. We got to confront them. And the leaders of the Black church have to grow some balls and learn to confront them. And that's what I've been saying for years. And possibly we could have avoided a lot of where we are right now had our religious leaders woken up, snapped out of it, put down the filthy lucre, and been more concerned with the community, which was the purpose of the church in the first place. You can't be speaking in tongues and playing slow music while my son is being choked to death by a peace officer in the street. That speaking in tongues and that all of that really has very little value in a time like this. And we need real message, real points, real Black economics. And that's going to come from the Black church. But the Black church has to get it together.
One of the issues that I see, I'm sorry, that's perfect. And I just want to piggyback on that with this next thought and segue into the next questioning. With that, what you're saying is absolutely, positively on point, and absolutely true. So I'm looking at it from the standpoint of we need all of those things. But what do you do with a system in the fundamental or the traditional church that has, for all of its talk of unity, has always found its its strength in separating, to be honest.
It goes
Particularly in the
back.
Black church.
That's such a great question, brother. It goes back to what we've already said. Institutions are being challenged now,
Including the church, absolutely.
including the church. The church has to deal with the institution, because in order for any institution to be effective, it has to institutionalize, or it doesn't work. So now institutions are being challenged, and the church has to deal with the institution. And if they deal with the institution on many levels, we'll find out that the relationship we thought we had with God, we had with church, but never met God in the first place.
I think we're starting to see that even now with another great segue when what we've been dealing with for the last several months with the COVID crisis, because you've got a lot of people who at one point, even before the brutality piece came in, which is again, and if you notice this has all been, systematically, God has been shoving the church out of its comfort zone.
Yeah.
With COVID into this brutality piece, the church is being shoved back into the forefront because it's been playing the background quietly for so long, to where it seems that what's been done behind closed doors doesn't get the spotlight that it should. And I'm talking about the negative things that should have been challenged. But now with COVID and with the brutality piece, people are saying, hey, wait a minute, what about the church and all of this? And now the covers are being pulled off. And I shudder to say it, some of the institutional leaders and some of the older leaders are shaking for fear because their covers are being pulled off, and the truth of what they're really about is being exposed.
Yeah. And not just that their covers are being pulled off, because this is not just exposing time. This is death is out. Death is out, and Deaf has been doing a great job this year, working overtime actually this year. I said this during the onslaught of COVID-19, something that and you guys, of course, I know you'll correct me if I'm wrong. I said this during the onslaught of COVID-19. We heard no preachers, especially when the pandemic hit the Black church the hardest. We heard no preachers talking about the judgment of God during this time.
Wow.
When the Pulse nightclub incident happened, when those people lost their lives, that was the judgment of God. It had to be the judgment of God, because that was a bunch of homosexuals partying in the club. When COVID-19 hit the church, it almost banged the church, turned it upside down. Literally. Absolutely. Turned it upside down. Literally. Not one leader mentioned judgment. Ooh,
okay.
What about the judgment of God as it relates to the institutional church? How we've upheld breaking Black families. We're guilty of that.
Guilty of it. Very guilty.
We're guilty of breaking up husbands and wives. We're guilty of that. We're guilty of those things. We're guilty of lying. We're guilty of preaching prejudice. We're guilty of those things. And we just have to face it. And until you face it, here's the problem is not realizing that you was wrong. The problem is realizing that you was wrong and don't repent. You make no change to correct it. Nobody can hold the institutional church for the pathology that we've had, because it's not ours in the first place. So we can't be held responsible for the pathology, but we damn sure will be held in recognizing that the pathology was wrong, and we do nothing about it, and we don't correct it, and we don't start making some changes to address those things, because we have to address those things. We have to. We can't just talk about Black Lives Matter and not talk about all Black Lives Matter. You just can't. You can't talk about injustice in one way and not deal with injustice in that way. When you stand for justice, you stand for justice for everybody. Everybody. It's all inclusive. Justice is justice. It works for everybody the same, black, white, green, Christian, Muslim. It works the same. And that's what we have to acknowledge as the Black church. We were wrong. I've been saying this for years. We were wrong, and we have to get it right. And it's not enough that your bishops are scared and realize something was wrong. It would be enough when they realize something was wrong and call in for help, even if they're not the leaders of the new move.
Well, I think that the church is at a crossroads now where they have to either acknowledge their arrogance and ignorance, or they're going to face extinction. And you know, I said this years ago when we was doing the radio show the first time. I said that the church is going to either evolve or it's going to go extinct.
It's going to die.
And unfortunately, in those years, the church has continually gone down this rabbit hole of selfishness, going down this rabbit hole of pure defiance to knowing and understanding that everybody deserves to be treated on the same playing field.
That's it.
Not only that, the church has neglected the fact that we have not been active in our communities. There is no reason why our churches should still have the trap house on the same block. Right. We have not engaged the community. We haven't talked about health issues in the church
at all.
So how can it not be a sick place?
Yeah.
How do we not talk health and expect healthy relationships and expect healthy friendships and healthy lifestyles? It's impossible. So the church has encouraged, in a way, horrible living.
Yeah.
Because of our lack of response to doing things the right way, doing things in a healthy way.
Yeah.
So with this COVID situation, when COVID hit the church, it hit the church hard because there was no healthy talk anyway.
Yeah.
People were dying of underlying issues.
Yeah.
They were dying of heart problems and diabetes and all of this was triggered through the COVID. But it just goes to show that underneath it all, the church was not teaching these values, these core values that run society. If it runs society, it should run your church.
Yeah.
If my church cannot teach me how to live a healthy lifestyle, what good is it? That's one of the reasons why you're here, to show us the right way to go to live the best life. And this COVID thing was very personal for me because I had it. And Dwayne and Rob was telling me, you need to go get checked for the antibodies, and I finally did today. And I did have it. Dwayne can tell you, I was so sick. I couldn't utter a word.
Literally.
I couldn't breathe to speak. And again, now we move from can't breathing in COVID to can't breathing in police brutality. And that's all because the church has not supplied an atmosphere or an environment for people to breathe. What I mean by that, and I'll stop. What I mean by that is we have not had enough learning in the church. We haven't had enough that's the word, holistic teaching in the church. We have not had enough real talk in the church about what our real issues are and address them. Without addressing them, when bad times come, all of the weak spots get exposed. Everything that you have not addressed gets exposed. Everything, whether it's social justice, whether it's health, everything gets exposed. And it's because we have stopped doing what we were called to do.
Absolutely accurate and true. Listen, those of you who are watching, we appreciate you tuning in. I know it's later than normal, but this is a good time for us. This is why we come on at this time, and it's a great way for you to prepare yourself to get ready for your next day. So share this live, like it, share it, send your questions, comments. We no subject is taboo with us. We don't shy away from anything. So please share with us. Share with us. We want you to be a part of the conversation. You're watching the River of Living Water. Again, I'm Dwayne Lodeholt. I'm with my brothers Jamel Lewis, Derek Higgs, and we're here sharing with you. Tonight we're talking current events. Quite honestly, this is our first show back in about 5 years, and we just wanted to tackle what's going on currently before we delve into some other topics going on coming forward. So now, with the idea of the exposure that is happening within the institution of the church through COVID-19, as well as the police brutality piece, what are some of the action items? Because we don't just want to point out the problem, but I believe we are brothers who are solution oriented. So Derek, share with us some of the solutions that you see are necessary for the church to once again be relevant in the 21st century going forward.
Honestly, not to devalue your question, but to answer your question, honestly, I think right now, admitting there's a problem is the biggest thing and the biggest step to fixing it. Is admitting there's a problem, admitting that we were wrong, admitting that we messed up. And that's not just because we don't even have enough time in a day to talk about all the problems of the Black church.
Absolutely.
But the major issues is that we're too afraid to admit that we were wrong and that we have a problem. And we may not have all of the solutions, but admitting that we have a problem is the biggest step to the solution. Now, I believe that there's ways of helping, and people like myself and Jamel are always ready and able to come and teach a new foundation, because it's not simple. It's not difficult. The church just made it hard. It's pretty simple. And once we get the simple basics of the message that we should have been teaching and preaching from the get-go, you fix your own problems. Because just as you are the problem itself, you are also the solution to that problem. But you first got to admit that there's a major problem. And I don't think there's any way to progress until we first start there. And that's going to take some of your major leaders to say that this is right. There's a problem. And we may not know how to fix it, but there is a problem. And then you call for help. Like anybody else, you call for help.
One of our younger brothers, Desmond Peacock, shout out to you, Des, has a list here. Number 1, complete transparency. Number 2, accountability. Number 3, repentance. Number 4, resetting our true targets. Number 5, allow the new generation of leaders to do what God called them to do. Jamel, speak to this.
Oh, so on point.
Right. There's not much to say. He's so well. It was so well said. And at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, the only thing that I would say is that I would take number 3 and put it at number 1. which is repentance.
Repentance.
And
That's me too.
repentance, what I'm talking about is just rethink the way you've done things. Come and rethink and see how what you have been doing has not worked. Because once we deal with repentance, then we can be transparent with ourselves and say, you know what, this didn't work. This was messed up. I could have did better here. I really need to stop fleecing the people in this area. And once you do that, it leads to open conversations, new fresh ideas, new fresh strategies. And once that happens, then there's always a younger generation looking to do, but now you give them a point of focus to do and let them do it the way they know how to do it. So let them do it the way that they know will reach their generation. Don't try to put your spin from your generation onto the new generation, because there's certain things that are not, they just don't translate. There are certain things that do not, and you have to recognize that these new generation of leaders, even though they may be young, they have the zeal to do it. They have the energy to do it. They have the language of the day to do it. And all they need is for us to help in strategizing. Not take over and strategize, but help in strategizing. You know, once we come together and strategize, then some of my wisdom can be added to your energy. Some of my wisdom can be added to your fresh idea. And your fresh idea will begin to reinvigorate the wisdom that I've put to it. Because sometimes some of the wisdom that we have is not applicable to the day and time that we're in, because it's different. But if we sit down, what the scripture says, it says, come let us reason together. If we reason together, if we talk together, if we work it out together, old, young, male, female, gay, straight, all of that, because all that is part of the church. No part of the church can be left out of the conversation. No part of the church can be left out of the conversation, because if you leave one part out, then you end up leavening the whole lump. You leave one part out, and it brings an imbalance to what's going on.
Yeah.
So that's what I'll say to it.
Excellent. Sheree Stevenson says, I agree with Derek, but let me ask this. How can we teach and respect people on how to treat our people when we don't respect our own people? Either of you can jump on that.
I think the lack of respect that we have for one another is systematic as well as anything else. It's program behavior. It's program behavior. It's institutionalized behavior. And the moment we correct the message, it corrects. The message of Christ is what it is. Christ's consciousness is what it is. Right. And I think I wanted to clear up something while we were talking. The distinction of the church that we're talking about, because one, the church itself is fully functioning, it's totally healthy, and it's working fine. What we're talking about is the institutional church, which is dysfunctional, broken, misguided, misled. If we don't deal with the institutional church, those members of the church, because you're a member of the church, whether you know you're a member of the church or not, you're a part of the body, whether you know you're a part of the body or not. If those members of the body are not awakened, self-love, loving others, treating one another with respect, all of those things come with the way we see ourselves as it relates to God. And we've been taught to see ourselves wrong as it relates to God from the institutional church. So we see each other incorrectly, which is a part of the message that I'm talking about, that the institutional church has to repair.
Wow. That's an excellent thought. Jamel, same question.
Uh, uh, Basically, it's just as simple as putting love in action.
Yeah.
How shall men know that you my disciples by the love that you show? And the
Yeah.
the operative word in that sentence is show.
Mhm.
People will always remember how they feel after being in your presence. People will always understand that you love them by how you treated them, by how you reacted to them. You know, and I think when we begin to show them that we love them, not just say it, because we say it all the time. Hey son, I love you. Hey daughter,
Love
I
it with
love
the
you.
love of the Lord.
But if you just saying it, but you never show it, you know, it has to be shown. It has to be shown. And once you show it, there are not many words you have to say. People will know it, and they'll move on the fact of how they feel when they're in your presence. When Bishop Reed was alive, people loved to be in his presence.
True.
Why? Because he knew how to treat people. He didn't just say, I love you. He showed that he loved you.
Very
The
true.
concern, when we begin to show people that we have a concern, a genuine concern, and a genuine love, when we begin to show them that respect will automatically come. It will automatically come.
Truth be told, Bishop Reed had all them folks because he demonstrated the love of God.
Yeah.
That's fact,
Yeah.
not fiction. He
Yeah.
demonstrated
Yeah.
he demonstrated the love of God, and some things this is proof, and this is not to play Bishop Reed down. You wouldn't put him up there with the greatest of what you call preachers, but I'd put him up there with the greatest of what you call leaders because of his love towards the people. In fact,
He was a man who was a great pastor.
a great pastor. He was a great pastor. I don't care who's listening. And on some levels, he kept Pilgrim together when Pilgrim could have fell apart. Because of that love for people and being able to demonstrate that love towards people. I'm glad you mentioned him too, because that's some great legacy and some great man. We came from some great stock.
Yeah, man. Definitely.
Indeed.
Definitely.
He taught us how to love the people. He taught me how to be the people's person. I think I would have to say I got that from Bishop Reed, that I learned how to be the people's person and speak for the people because of him. And that's why he had so many people there that loved him so much and respected him so much to the grave.
Yeah.
You can't buy
he was a living epistle read by men. He was the embodiment of that scripture. When people spoke with him, the love, whether he knew you or not, he tried to make you feel comfortable, tried to make you realize that you're loved, tried to make you realize that he was concerned about you, and that was huge. Huge.
Yeah.
He could get people to do stuff that others could not.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to take that type of leadership in the church going forward to be able to help, because I even remember Bishop Reed being one of those people that wasn't afraid to admit their shortcomings or where they might have fallen short. He wasn't afraid to be honest about what was going on. I remember him being honest about simple things. Stuff as simple, and Jamel, you remember the stuff as simple as the boiler in Harlem going out.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas other pastors would have chosen that moment to buy, because the church needed a new boiler, to come up with a gimmick to try to get the money to. Bishop Reed just said, listen, the boiler's going out, it's old, we need to replace it. And people just started bringing money to the altar. No gimmicks, no games, just a heart for God, a heart for God's people, and honesty.
Yeah.
Yep.
What is it going to take for the institutional church to understand that all people really want is to know that their leaders are real?
Part the problem, bro, is that some of these leaders move from the concrete to the grass,
Wow.
and that's a problem. They made it off of the back of those people, and they forgot the people whose backs they were on.
Mm.
And I say that in my own personal life, and being a preacher's kid, and not just being a preacher, I had every level of church you could think of, from being the preacher to being the preacher's kid, being the preacher's kid, and watching how my own family handled money and the money from those people, and years later you have nothing really tangible to even show for all of that money that those people were given. And not only do you not have anything to show for all of that money that those people were given, you no longer even have the voice of the people in your heart. You no longer even speak for the people. And that's the sad reality. These people are disconnected because they're pulling their cars into 2-car garages. You know, when they get hungry, they call for a sacrificial offering.
Wow.
And they forgot the people that they lead. And, you know, so many people, this the real deal. You know, a lot of your leaders, this is why they stress the title. They put emphasis on the title.
Wow.
Gotta respect the title, And they put emphasis on the title. And the reason they put emphasis on the title is because you have to respect the title even when the individual who wears it is not respectable.
Wow.
So we've allowed dishonorable people who wear titles to lead us. And now people are going to call you Dwayne, man. People are going to call you Jamel. And that's no disrespect. That's just where people are.
And it's the truth. And I said something like that to a pastor friend of mine who's unfortunately since passed away. He came by my church while we were still on Belmont Avenue. A few years into my ministry, I had just become an overseer, and you know it was a big deal. He came by to visit, and he saw me interacting with some of my people after service. And you know, one of my members walked up to me and was like, you know, Dwayne, this, that, and so we finished our conversation, and we went back to my office. And he pulled me to the side. He said, "You let your people call you by your first name?" And I said to him simply, I would rather them respect the man,
the person,
who I am as a person, than give me false respect of a title that I may not be living up to.
Yeah.
Those are my words.
Called to be an apostle. Know your first name first.
Know it. You got to know it.
Know that first. Be comfortable with that first. I'm so comfortable with Derek that I know I'm a leader. I'm a born leader. I'm a natural born leader. I could not be a leader if I wanted to. Right. But I'm so comfortable with myself. I don't want nobody else to try to be Derek. Don't try to be Derek. Don't try to do what Derek do. Derek, nobody could be Derek like me. Nobody could be Dwayne like you. What we're talking about, we literally see in the lives of the three of us. We literally get to see it in the lives of the three of us. We will curse each other out. Dwayne, you know I curse you out. We're going to get in it. We're going to have it out. But we brothers. That's right. What brothers do. That's what brothers do.
We're not always going to see eye to eye. We're not always going to see eye to eye.
We're not always going to agree, but we're brothers. At the end of the day, I'm
saying you don't have a problem with me.
That's the way that goes. That's the way that goes. The same with Jamel. Me and Jamel, we sit and we chat, we sit, we chat, and we sit. Nah, bro, that don't sound cool. Nah, bro, that don't sound right. Jamel do the same thing to me. I do the same thing to you. Nah, bro, you know that's bull. That's bull. Iron sharpens iron. And the only way for iron to sharpen iron is they have to scrape up against each other. If they don't scrape each other, if they don't bang up each other and cause friction, that shit ain't getting sharp. And I'm sorry.
Now you good.
Well,
you good.
You know,
no, I wasn't saying sorry for cursing. I'm just saying sorry for the point that I made.
Why would you apologize for the point? that made no sense. Go ahead, Jamal. Give us a closing thought, Jamal. We got to get out of here.
My closing point is simply this. when we stop playing the role of an actor, then we can start really living our lives as men. Too many actors, too many performers. It's time to be men. In business, be men. This is our business.
You don't
People
want
are
it.
our
You
business.
don't want it.
It's time for us to be men.
Put away childish things.
That's it.
Well, thank you all for hanging out with us on this relaunch episode, River of Living Water Remix. Thank you for this first night. We appreciate all of you that came on, stayed up late with us. We thank you. Join us again next week. We'll have another great topic. We'll have some more guests that you'll hear about later on in the week. Listen, do me a favor. I've learned the importance of the Facebook algorithm as far as getting things out to where it needs to get out to. So this is what I need. I need for all of you that are still watching to do me a favor. I need each of you to share this live on your personal pages. Why? Because the way the algorithm works is that when you share it, the algorithm starts generating and it gets to more people. The next thing I need you to do is I need you to click a reaction, whether you like it, whether you heart it, whether you care about it. That's the hugging emoji. Whether you're laughing at something that we said. Now, listen, I don't want you to do that in the live. You know, you can send up hearts and likes in the lives. No, I need you to actually like the post, because in you liking the post, Facebook sees that as a reaction and it sends it out to over 100 more people. So the more likes, the more this live gets to people. Also, if you can, after this broadcast is over, start a watch party. Your watch party will go out to your people and will get us in the faces of more folks, and it replays all throughout the day. So people who maybe didn't catch it live can catch it at some point. If this live is blessing you, if it's doing something to help you get through your night, if it's putting you to sleep so you can sleep well, hey, we'll take it all. We want to help build the River of Living Water to being what it's supposed to be. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you, Jamel. Thank you, Derek. I appreciate you, brothers, as always. Join us next week. We out of here. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching the River of Living Water.
I'm going in.